We welcome everyone in once again to another women's basketball pregame show. I'm Cameron Irwin, alongside my colleagues Brock Stotler and Ben Line-Neumann. Hoops in the Heartland Tournament coming up this weekend. Bradley, the 5 seed against 4th seed UNI. Bradley finished the season 14-11, 10-8 in conference play, and it really started with the end of the season series sweep against Indiana State. Brock, we'll start with you. What did you see from that series that you liked?
Yeah, I think for Bradley, that was such a big series for them. Get 2 easy wins, really in dominating fashion. It was good to get the offense going. They scored above 80 points in both of those games, while also keeping Indiana State to under 60 points. So it's good to see that they're getting it done on both the offensive and defensive side of the floor. Indiana State is a little bit, they were at the bottom of the conference, so you expect to win those games, but nonetheless, to do it in such a dominating fashion is always impressive. And I think what stood out to me so much was that this game was, it marked the end of the run for Gabby Hawk and Nyjah White here at Bradley. And, those two capped off their careers with 2 very big games. Both had double-doubles. And I think that's just a perfect exclamation point to their home career here at Bradley.
Yeah, like Brock said, a very good series for the Braves this weekend. They played really amazing defense, only allowed 31% of shots to go in between both games, as well as an average of 54 rebounds throughout both games. Alicia Petrie had an amazing second game, 28 points, a few rebounds. It was really good. And all of our picks to click did really well this week. I mean, like Brock said, Gabby Hawk and Nyjah White both got double-doubles. And in the first game, Tatum Canyon got 12 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. So really good all-around play for the Braves.
And it was very encouraging that the big person inside for Indiana State, Jamira McChristian, was only held to 2 points in that first game and was really thrown off for rhythm really the entire series. So I think that's very important for Bradley. They're going to face some very good and very talented bigs as they move throughout this Hoops in the Heartland Tournament. So getting that out of the way and having a nice dominant performance against a very good person inside is very big for this Bradley team going down the stretch.
Now, offensively, that first game, the first quarter was huge for Bradley, outscoring Indiana State 37-4. That's a 33-point margin. But, guys, of course, staying with that series real quick, Ben, we'll start with you. Anything you saw then before heading to the tournament that would scare you if you're a Bradley team?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Braves definitely turned the ball over a little too much for my liking, 14.5 throughout the series, as well as fouling the ball a little bit too much. They need to play smart defense. They allowed 18 free throws throughout both games and 9 free throws in game 2 in the fourth quarter. So just really got to make smart plays on the defensive end and try to avoid the foul.
I think they still need to just continue to cut down on the offensive rebounds that they give up. They did give up under 15 in both of those games, which is encouraging. Because if Bradley's going to get beat, they're going to get beat on the offensive glass. And as we've seen that all season long, when they really struggle, they're getting dominated inside. Teams that are scoring at will in the paint, and they're getting offensive rebounds. So if Bradley can limit that while also speeding other teams up and forcing them to make some turnovers, and where they can get easy runouts and get some easy points, I think that's going to be very crucial if they want to make a deep tournament run.
Now, guys, we mentioned Gabby Hawk and Alicia Petrie. They are both first-team All-MVC. Those were announced this week. And, Brock, I know for you, 2 players especially you think very deserving of the award this year, not from Bradley.
Yeah, that would be Drake's Grace Berg and Illinois State's Julian Redmond. I think when you watch those 2 players play, they certainly deserve the first-team All-Conference honors. When you see them step on the court, your eyes just immediately gravitate to those players. Julian Redmond, really that do-it-all guard forward for Illinois State, can rebound, pass, score from all 3 levels. And then Grace Berg as well, she's really stepped in nice to fill in the presence that Sarah Ryan left behind last year. She can shoot the 3, can shoot the mid-range, can go to work inside, can play defense, and can pass. So I think 2 very good all-around players and 2 who are very deserving of that first-team All-Conference honors.
And, Ben, you thought there were a couple players that were left off that first-team honor, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a very solid list of players. I think every player on that list has definitely deserved it, especially in my opinion, Bryce Caleb. In my opinion, she's the MVC player of the year this year. But, I mean, you also can't look over Abby Fate from Evansville. Obviously, Evansville finished last in conference this season, but she still finished 4th in scoring for the entire Missouri Valley Conference this year, as well as a player like Mary Crompton, who was a big part of ISU's offense this year, especially shooting the 3.
Of course, Gabby Hawk, one of the first-team All-Teamers, and you guys both think that Team MVP this year, she's the one to watch.
Yeah, I think when you look at her numbers, she's averaging a career high in both points and rebounds. She's averaging 16 points a game and 7 rebounds a game, which for a guard is pretty pretty crazy that she's averaging 7 rebounds a game. That leads the team as well. And I think when you look up and down her score sheet this season, she's been that one player that's been most consistent for Bradley. It felt like game in and game out. When you need a big basket, you can go to her. She can shoot the three. She's shooting 40% from three this year, 79% from the free throw line, and 47% from the field. So she doesn't have any weaknesses in her game, and she's just a great all-around player for Bradley.
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed watching Gabby Hawk grow as a player these last 4 years. She's improved every single category so much. As Brock said, leading the team in three-point percentage and rebounds, as well as the second leading scorer for the Braves. I think that she definitely deserves this MVP award. I really wanted to choose Alicia, but Gabby has been very consistent this season, and unfortunately, Alicia has had some high and off times for the Braves.
Now, of course, we did mention earlier, Bradley, the 5th seed in the Hoops in the Heartland Tournament. They take on 4th seed UNI Friday at 2 p.m. Ben, we'll start with you here. What are some teams that Bradley should be looking at in terms of they may be in their path on the way to a Hoops in the Heartland Tournament victory?
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, it's got to be Missouri State. If they get past UNI this weekend, they'll have to face Missouri State in the second round, and that's not an easy team to beat. Undefeated in conference, only lost 2 games the entire season, and you got to watch out for players like Bryce Calip, of course, but also Jasmine Franklin and Abby Hipp, who can score from virtually anywhere on the court.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off Ben right there. I think you have to go with Missouri State. I mean, you look at it, you think maybe, what about Drake? Bradley was 1-1 against Drake this season, so they know how to beat Drake. And I think, when you look at Missouri State, they are very tough. I mean, they ran the gauntlet this season in Missouri Valley Conference play. That's never easy. You don't see that very often, an undefeated conference champion. And I think if Bradley is going to beat them, they have to draw upon that first game when they only lost by 6. It was actually a really close game. Gabby Hawk and Alicia Petrie didn't shoot the ball overly well. So if you think that you can get some positive contribution for them and have a better game out of them and keep Missouri State out of the paint, you cannot let Jasmine Franklin run wild in there, and you cannot let Bryce Calip get going on the outside. And I think that if Bradley can do those things, I think that's going to give them a good shot to beat Missouri State.
Now, Ben mentioned something huge. That's if Bradley can get past UNI. We can't overlook that game. The Braves split the series with Northern Iowa this year at Renaissance Coliseum. And Ben, I'll come back to you. That first game especially, Cam Finley hit the game winner. Bradley was in it at the end.
Yeah, they sure were. It was a really tough game, but overall in that series, I think they played really well. UNI didn't shoot the ball too well, and they were really able to play a good brand of defense, even with the game winner. Something that I think they'll have to work on for this next game coming up is, again, as I mentioned earlier, they really need to limit fouls. They just committed way too many fouls in their last series against UNI, and UNI can really shoot free throws because in that series, they didn't miss a single free throw in either game.
Yeah, I was really impressed with just how Bradley battled back in that first game. They didn't get the win, but they outscored UNI by 15 points in that fourth quarter. So just think that. I think for Bradley, it's important that they just start fast and they can't get pushed in holes like that where they have to fight back early because you can't rely on outscoring teams by 15 points in the fourth quarter every single night in and night out, especially in this Valley tournament where the teams are going to be locked in and laser focused. Now Bradley's really got to play sharp, and I think they just have to make sure that they don't get out and get behind early, and they have to keep an eye on Cam Finley. She really hurt them in that first game, scored 25 points, made some threes. So I think Bradley has to really keep an eye on her, and they cannot let her get loose again.
Now, once again, Bradley and UNI, that's 2 o'clock Central Time on Friday. Brock, we'll start with you. What are you looking at in this game for the Bradley Braves?
I think for Bradley, you're going to have to rely on your 2 big scorers, Alicia Petrie and Gabby Hawk. Obviously, they can stretch things out from the outside. But I think the player to watch that might be the X factor for this series is Uche Ofuchukwu. You saw her come in that first game against Indiana State. Only played 9 minutes, but she did score 7 points and grab 5 rebounds. So that's pretty. That she's using her time very well. If she can start to score and start to click and flow with this Bradley offense, she's going to be a very tough person inside for other teams to have to deal with, and she's just going to give this Bradley team even more length and even better defense.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Brock said. I think it's all going to come down to Alicia and Gabby. If they can get open shots, get open, I think that's something they really need to do well. They need to control the boards, get their shooters open and score, and what Brock touched on with Uche, I think Uche is going to be really big in this entire conference tournament.
Now, something I want to touch back on from the first pregame show we did was our optimal starting lineups for the entire season. You guys touched on Uche. I thought she was going to be the 5th starter this year for Bradley. I was obviously wrong, yet here we are at the end of the season. Ben, starting with you, an optimal lineup, an optimal Bradley lineup for a tournament run would look like what for you?
Yeah, I mean, especially if the Braves are playing Missouri State in the second round, I have to go with a lineup of Tatum, Gabby Hawk, Alicia Petrie, Emily Marsh, and Uche. I think Emily Marsh and Uche are definitely the 2 best low defenders. Uche's size is going to be really big, especially guarding a player like Jasmine Franklin, and I think it's something that's going to be really helpful for them.
And yeah, I think if Bradley is able to get past UNI, I think for that Missouri State game, they're going to want to go big. I think you throw Uche in there at the 5. I think you put Nyjah White at the 4, that do-it-all forward for Bradley, who's really had a nice senior season, who has complemented her junior season very well. And then Alicia Petrie, obviously, Gabby Hawk, and Tatum Koenig. I think that gives you the best score. Those are probably the best 4 scorers on the team. Nyjah White, not really known as a scorer, but she's very. She can really get her own, and when she starts getting that mid-range jumper flowing, she can bring the ball up the floor too on the fast break. So that's something that adds another dimension to this offense. But I think to contend with Jasmine Franklin on the inside, I think throwing Uche down there and giving her a little bit of a different look. She probably hasn't had a whole lot to deal. Hasn't really had experience dealing with someone who's 6'4", 6'5" like Uche is. So I think that could maybe throw her out of a rhythm for a little bit at the start of that game.
The only problem is I keep pushing us ahead of this UNI game. UNI and Bradley, the first game to come. And, of course, Bradley can beat UNI. They've done so once this year already. They were in position to win in the first game of that series. So Bradley can beat the UNI Panthers, and they most certainly will do their best on Friday. Ben, we'll start with you then. Keys to the game for Bradley and the Panthers.
Yeah, like I touched on earlier, I think, really need to control the glass. UNI is a pretty decent rebounding team, as well as, pass the ball around, get shooters open, and really try to limit those turnovers and fouls that have been nagging them all season.
And then, my keys to the game for Bradley, they have to get – their bench is going to be very big in this tournament. Chloe Rice is going to have to play a big role. If Mari Petrie doesn't start and comes off the bench, she's going to have to play a big role. Bradley's their bench has been a little bit inconsistent this year, but they have to make sure that their bench not only provides for them offensively, but they have to come in and provide for them defensively. You can't have a step down when that bench comes in because the other teams that are ahead of you in the Valley they're very deep, and they are going to throw 10 players out there who are going to be solid and can all score. And then I think the second key for Bradley is they have to speed teams up, make them uncomfortable, get them out of their comfort zone. They can't let them set up offense, and Bradley's going to have to get some easy run-out baskets. Feels like they don't get a whole lot of those this season, but when they do, it seems like that's when Bradley has a lot of their success, when they're speeding teams up, getting in the passing lanes, and getting a lot of easy layups.
Now, Ben mentioned earlier all of our picks to click hit this week. We're going to look to do so again for the tournament. Brock, we'll start with you. Your pick to click for this weekend.
I'm going to double up. I went Tatum Koenig last week, and Ben mentioned earlier in the show she had a very good game against Indiana State in that first one, 12 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists, a very good all-around game for her. I'm gonna go with her again this week. I think she has started to really pick up her game, toward the end of last year, and then really all of this season. She's been a completely different player from when she first stepped on campus, and I think she's going to be very big for Bradley. If she can knock down threes and can facilitate the offense, grab some rebounds, and start the break for Bradley and get them in their offense, I think that's going to be very important for them this week.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go with our leading scorer, Alicia Petrie. Obviously, she's very good both on the offensive side and the defensive side. And UNI really struggles with guarding the three ball as well as inside. And I think that Alicia is going to have a really big game like she just did in her last game against Indiana State.
Now, if there's anything I've heard from students around the campus, it's that Tatum Koenig goes as far as this offense goes. And if Tatum can play well, this offense will really start to click. My pick to click this week, though, I have to hark back to Game 2 of that UNI series. If we see why Bradley did so well, it's because Nyjah White had a career high, 30-plus points for her. I've got to go with Nyjah. If she can get this team going in the tournament, Bradley's unstoppable. Of course, leaving off Gabby Hawk for our picks to click, we all know she's going to do well. As we said, the team MVP this year, she will be on fire as well if she can get it going from the three-point arc. But guys, final thoughts here before the Hoops in the Heartland Tournament this weekend. Ben, we'll start with you. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think this is going to be an all hands-on-deck situation. Every single player on this Braves team is going to need to play the best brand of basketball they have ever played if they are going to win this conference tournament. If they get by Missouri State, they're going to have to go through Drake or ISU, and those are not going to be hard. Or those are going to be hard games. the Braves are 1-5 against Missouri State, Drake, and ISU, only winning one game against Drake. So this is gonna be a series that really needs every player to play their best brand of basketball.
Yeah, I agree with Ben. I think Bradley is going to have to be on their A game 1 through 12 in that lineup. Isis, the freshman Isis Fitch, TT Danzo, they're going to have to come in and play a big role. And yeah, you can't leave out any stops. Bradley's gonna have to play perfect basketball. Even if you do get by UNI, Ben mentioned, you have Murderers Row waiting for you, being that fifth seed. Bradley they avoided the Thursday, which is always good, but being that fifth seed, you do have to still play those top teams, and having to go through Missouri State and then potentially Drake. Yeah, Bradley's going to have to be on their A game, and the Gabby Hawk, Alicia Petrie, Tatum Koenig, Nigel White, they're going to have to carry this offense if they're going to want to win and make it to the NCAA tournament.
The fifth-seeded Bradley Braves look to make a tournament run beginning Friday at 2 p.m. Central. They tip off against the UNI Panthers. But, guys, it's been a fun run this year, and we look forward to see Bradley make a deep run in the hoops in the Heartland Tournament. Once again, for my colleagues Brock Stotler and Ben Line-Neumann, executive producer Tim Rushi, and Max Kriegshauser behind the camera, I'm Cameron Irwin, and we'll see you next time.